All right, so today you're working on 3.7 notes, day one. And student handout here, teacher notes here. If I make this large, we can go through this together. So introduction, so Jolly Rogers demo, whatever. So 3.7, the method of markers. This is discrete method. So players don't put up any of their own money here. So the conditions, many more items to be divided than players. There's going to be more items than players. And items are all reasonably close in value. So there's not a big jump in the value of those said items. Now, the method here is we're going to have n players with m items. All m items are arranged in order, random order. And then we still have bidding. The bidding here goes that each player will separately split the arrangement of the items into n segments. So each segment is back to back and it's consecutive. So one right after the other. Now, players want any segment that they make because they are the fair shares. So the players are going to want the segments they make because that's what they consider to be fair, whatever the ordering of that item is. So then we'll get to the allocation. So the bidding is here, and then the allocation. So this compares all player segments simultaneously from left to right order. The segment that ends the soonest will go to that player. Ties can be broken at random. The last player will always get their last segment or the last segment. So the first segment. So when we're looking at these kind of segmented items, right? How do I segment them? So the first segment that ends the soonest will then be given away. That's the first segment. All remaining players will have second segments compared. The second segment that ends the soonest will be given to that player. And then repeat with the remaining players until all players have received one segment. So then maybe there's some leftovers here, kind of like the surplus from the last one. There's a random lottery if less items than players, and then repeat the method of markers if many more items than players remain. So if there's more items than players, you just do the repeat. So example one, we'll look at together. You've got Greg, Josh, Michelle, and Sarah are cousins who are trying to split leftover Halloween candy. In total, they have 20 pieces of Reese's, M&M's, Milky Way, Crunch Bars, Snickers, Mr. Good, blah, blah, blah. All of this from the Halloween candy they got. Now, here are, segments. So you can see how this is going to be ordered. Now, if you go back and you look at, the fill in the blank, it's still given to you here as well. All right. So in this case, we can see, 1 through 20. There's the 20 pieces. And you can see that you've got Reese's, then looks like Milky Way, then Hershey's, Milky Way, M&M's, Hershey's, Mr. Good Bar. That's what they're all standing for, the type of candy that they have. So Greg's first kind of, segment is 1 through 5. That's his first segment. Second segment, 6 through 11, then 12 through 16, then 7 through 18. So what he's saying is I'll take this segment, then I'll take this segment, right? And so those are the segments. Josh, 1 through 4, and so on and so forth, 5 through 8, blah, blah, blah. So the first segment that's going to be given is the one that ends the soonest. So whoever chose the least. So Josh said I'd be good with 1 through 4. Josh gets 1 through 4. The second segment is kind of then compared. 6 through 11, you've got, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 items. 5 through 8 is 1, 2, 3, 4 items. So that would maybe go to Josh. Michelle would 7 through 9, 3 items. So Michelle gets that. This is 4 items. This is 3 items. So that ends the soonest. So it goes to Michelle. Now the third segment, right, might happen in a tie. So we'll see. So if we look, we've got, and again, you can get more than just one. So if we go again, we'll pick it up. We'll see that 11 through 16. Sarah, that's a segment. That's 11 through 16. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. For Greg, 12 through 16. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so why is this a tie? Well, because Greg has to pick up after Michelle got that 11. And Sarah also can't get, 6 through 10 because 9 is given up and all that. So they have to kind of pick up where they left off. And unless somebody starts at 10, which Michelle does, right, we could go through that. But Michelle just got 7 through 9. So the tiebreaker, all right, ties can be broken at random. So what we did, we've got Sarah has 11 through 16 and Greg has 12 through 16. Now, the fourth segment could be Greg or Sarah again because they chose the 17 through 20, because everybody has to get something. So the leftovers really depend on what Greg or Sarah is picked in the tiebreak. We don't know what the tiebreak is, so we can't do it. So there's going to be piece 5 that's left over. Nobody got piece 5, and nobody got piece 6, right? 4 to 7, there's a gap. And then, or pieces 5, 7, and 6, 5, 6, and 10, depending on this tie break. Okay. All right. Moving on, let's take a look at another example. Example number 2. Use the method of markers to assign the following shapes to 4 players, player A, B, and D. So a little bit A, B, C, D, a little bit more ambiguous here. So if you're looking at this, very confusing to look at. Here's the sequence that you can see. So which would player A get? Player A is going to get the third segment. Why? Well, look at what player A stopped at before. See, B1 would say player B stopped his right here. Player A stopped theirs right here. Player C stopped theirs here. And player D stopped theirs here. So then, if we gave up, the shapes to B1, B1 is going to get the first segment. Well, then let's see, where does A2 stop? A2 stops from here, from its stopping point to A2 here. So it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shapes. So 5 shapes for the second segment. C1 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shapes because we go from C1 to C2. For D1, so we go from where it ended to D2, which is 1, 2, 3 shapes. So D gets the second segment because theirs only consists of 3 shapes. For B, they're obviously not going to because they get, an extra large amount, actually 2 more than C in that regard. So now we're left over with player A getting something and player C getting something. So which one gets what? Well, for player A to A3 goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shapes. Okay, keep that in mind. C goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shapes. Okay, so player A could get the third segment, but also they could get this. Well, let's just start here. They're going to get the third segment here, which means that player C gets the last fourth. 1, 2, 3, 4. Because that's really the smallest segment end there. So C is going to get the smallest segment end, which means that A gets the third. So there are leftovers. There's some leftovers here. Okay, and in those leftovers, you can see because from the first segment to this segment, there's 1, 2, 3 leftovers and then 4 leftovers. Maybe we have to divide them out arbitrarily. So we'll figure out where those then go after we've figured out, why. So if we come back up here to the tiebreaker or dividing the leftovers, random lottery if items less than players, repeat the method of markers if there are more items than players. So there's the same amount, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so again, making sure you go through and just look for where that first marker ends. So because the first marker here ends on B1, they get B1. And then we're looking at as soon as the next marker ends. So it looks like D2 and A2, which is why you can flip those two. Because they're ending at the same amount, that's why you can kind of put those in the same tiebreaker. And then if you look, if you gave it to A2 or A, then you'd have to get player D the other one. And that's just because their A2 or your D2 markers end at the same time. So what I'd like for you to do is to look over example 3 and start, again, paying attention to when the markers end with these people. So it looks like blue ends first, so Alice would get the first one, right? And then these are all gone because that's the end of round 1. And then when does the next one end? Okay, take a look at that.